Hello, folks. Wow. Hello, everybody. What's up? Hello, Jared. I saw you come in. I hope you come back. If not, have a good night. Smoochy, dear. Happy Mother's Day to you. Black Dragon. How you folks doing? Mr. Jim. I hope you're good. I enjoy your videos very much. I find them very relaxing. I don't always leave a comment, but I'm watching. And sympathize to you too, Mr. Dragon. I hope everybody's having a good Mother's Day weekend so far. It's been beautiful here. I know some people are getting rain, storms, and down south are getting a good mix. So just be safe. Stay positive. She just sent me here from Instagram. Oh, did she? Did she do an Instagram? That's funny. I keep forgetting she's on there. I know I'm on TikTok. I haven't done anything since my last Godzilla. I'm finished him finally, so I'll be posting on there the new Godzilla. Now that I fixed him and painted him, got him going. I'll do a regular, and then I'll show what it looks like when it's all glowing. Just a kid at heart. I'm working on something else for Gemma to send her and little man. And the poor kid's been sick all week. I'm glad he's finally coming back to normal. Eastern Tennessee yeah, I know. Insane, huh? I mean, they've had earthquakes before, but they felt it all the way down in Georgia, which is amazing, just north of Atlanta. So that was shallow. And a 4.1 doesn't sound very strong, but in that area, it's still strong enough to shake. So, yeah, that's crazy. It is crazy. It is crazy, man. Big time. Big time. I'd expect more. We still have a bunch of planets on one side. I don't know who all follows astrology, but for a while there, and it's supposed to go on for 6 months, all our planets are pretty much on one side of the galaxy, of our little rotating atmosphere, whatever you want to call it. Okay. They're all on one side. And every time they do that, you'll see an uptick in maybe volcanoes, maybe in the weather gets a little weird. You'll see a difference in earthquakes and weird stuff. So, I think we should be almost out of it. If you watch the morning sky, I believe it's either the evening sky or the morning sky just before sunset or sunrise, or just as sun sets or sunrise, you should be able to see Venus and Mercury, I think, or one of the two. I'll have to go back and look. I'm giving you information. I don't have it, and then I don't have the actual. But yeah, so there's a lot going on. We had a couple close near misses, and we had one the other day. Haley Comet's passed, but it was so far out you'd have to have a telescope to really see it. And that was the beginning of the week, I believe. But I will start the uploads. Probably around, what time we got now? 11:04. As people come in, I'll probably start them about 11:15, 11:20. They're both fairly long, high strangeness videos. The first one is 28 minutes. So let me do this too, because she has an upload on Monday at 11 a.m. Sorry. I had a little issues earlier, and I'm still trying to get some of my talking ability back. So bear with me. 11 a.m. Let me put it up here. If it'll let me. Like I usually do for a little bit, so people know what it is. It's going to be a good one. There we go. Let me switch this over and make me bigger this time. There we go. And that's Monday. It's the changeling. It should be a good one. Yes, happy Mother's Day. I'll probably say it again before I leave tonight, since it will be officially Mother's Day's end. Yes, to all you mothers out there, happy day. And I hope you have a wonderful one. But that's the video for Monday, the upload. I call it uploads. Upload for Monday at 11 a.m. Should be a good one. It's based on a true story. She's going to talk about why she doesn't think it is what they think it is. So it should be interesting. She hasn't told me a lot about it. She never does. She likes to leave me guessing because I like to go in not knowing. I already know the true story, so it's kind of a weird story, but I'm going to let her tell it. And like I said, our first High Strangeness video for tonight is going to be, it says number 6, which cracks me up, but last week we did 5, and then one was just titled High Strangeness. I think that was because she lost count. But unless she did something different, I didn't know it. But so this one, the first one we're doing, she's got labeled as number 6 when it really is number 7. I'm picking on her. So if you're watching, Gemma, I'm just picking. But yeah, I hope the people out there, you folks out there, are being safe and having a wonderful weekend. Not much is going on here. I've been pretty busy. I kind of got too busy Wednesday night and wasn't paying attention to time. And by time 10:30, 11 o'clock rolled around, I realized I was supposed to be doing something. And then I realized it was Wednesday night. I should have been streaming. So that one's on me. Gemma just laughed. She's just like, oh, well. But I see I'm down to 1. So a lot of people think that I'm going to have Gemma with me. And she doesn't do these late nights. So it's just me. She's just part of the program. This is her night where I just play some of her older stuff. But let me get this out of here. I'll leave it up for a little bit longer for those who pop in and out. And when you come in, if you don't stay, please leave a like. That's all I ask. And I'm glad you stopped in and said hey and all that. I know there's other people out there streaming, so everybody's going around checking it out. I'm okay with that. But if I stay the only one watching, I will keep this pretty short. Yeah, Gemma's always with us. But why is my counter say 1, but unless it's just you and me, Black Dragon? That's weird. I'm telling you, YouTube is getting strange. I've been having all kinds of issues with it. Just trying to keep my stuff. I don't know why it's so big. Let me do this. There we go. Now try. I'll just try this now because I want to leave that up for a bit. It's not going to let me do it. Okay. Fine. Be that way. Oh, I'm here. See, yeah. My counter said there was only a couple people, just one person in here. And I'm in YouTube. So, I mean, I'm not knocking it. Yeah, Jimmy's always around. Bless her heart. She had a long week with little man being down. I had to give it to her. She was having a long week, bless her heart. But I know he ate today, and we played a little bit. He sounded a lot better, so I totally agree with you, Jim. It has. But I got to be careful what we say because, you streaming, me streaming, they pay attention. I mean, they actually monitor. If they don't monitor your chat during your stream, they monitor your chat after the stream. That's why sometimes you don't see chats pop right up after a stream, that there's a delay. And that's because, somebody's done a lot of cussing and they're just looking for a reason. It's sad, but it's true. And I like YouTube. I've been with YouTube. I've been around YouTube since its beginnings. I mean, other than the short time when when I got married and we started popping out kids. Yeah, Black Dragon, I'm like that on other sites too. So don't feel bad. They'll always watch me. I'm surprised I have lasted as long as I have on Facebook. Me and Facebook used to go around quite a bit. And that was many moons ago. That was even before I met Gemma and all that. Because she'd ask me, "Are you on Facebook? Would you get on Facebook?" And there he is. Hey, Jared, how you doing, bud? I hope you're well. Thank you for stopping in earlier. I did leave you a little tag. Thank you for coming in. Well, said hello. Yeah, they're good. These two tonight should be good ones. They're about 28 minutes, both, give or take. And then next week I'll take a break from them because, man, we are plowing through a library. I'm getting to the point where I'm going to have to, well, I'm not going to have to. I'm going to enjoy playing some of her cold case file ones and missing persons because some of those were big. And then what I may do is start going through her thing. You know, if you look at the most popular, when you go to her page, it will say the most popular, and then I'll play maybe those. I'm happy to see you too, Jared. I hope, I know you make your rounds, so. Yeah, I always bump heads too with them. Dragon. It's just a nightmare. When I was on Instagram a while back ago, about 3 years ago, 4 years ago, they literally kicked me off. It was like, they didn't like the stuff I was, well, I'm a conspiracy theorist. The only problem was I was showing receipts, and they didn't like that. I actually at one time got called a junior Alex Jones, and it was like, okay, I'm done. And I hadn't been back on any of the social media until I came back to Facebook. And then she asked me to come into TikTok, and I'll probably do a couple more little uploads. Like I said, I'm not really, this to me is about as far as you're going to get me to go other than being with her on Friday nights. I'm not a spotlight guy. But I do enjoy this. It is kind of like therapy for me, so I have fun with it. But yeah, me and these tech companies, we don't get along. I don't get along. So you're not the only one. Plus, I have a tendency to get a little nosy. And they don't like that. They don't like that at all. So yeah. I think the first one tonight, Facebook being my first account because I wouldn't give them any of my personal information. Yeah, that was the problem I had with them the first time I went in. So I gave them my little brothers. And then I still got in trouble. I mean, even though they thought it was him, but my signal's getting wacky. Interesting. I just got new Wi-Fi. Interesting. Yes, Gemma is a very special person. Yeah, she's a busy person. And like I said, with little man being sick all week, I would log on PlayStation and play with him for a little bit just so she could have a little time to herself. He was pretty sick. Poor little man lived in the bathroom, wasn't eating. He had some viral stomach thing, but he sounded so much better today when we were playing, so that's a good thing. And she sounded a little more rested. Hopefully she gets her Mother's Day tomorrow, and Daddy and son will go off and have fun and give her a break. So yeah. And Jared, just the best way to contact her is email. And if you don't think she does check them, usually on Sundays, and she tries to get back to everybody, but she gets her hands full. Just remember, she's still got that new book out. So, folks, please make sure if you haven't seen her books or read her books, please get her books. They're on Amazon. They're all good. I enjoyed them all. I let her know when they're crap. But they haven't been, so. Yeah, okay, yeah. Just give her a text and let her know, and she'll get back to you. So I've been working in and out today, and it's just, I cut grass yesterday when I thought we were going to stream, because we weren't sure, because he was still pretty rough. And I had a funny feeling the doctor told him to, have him stay home one more day. But like she said, he didn't even want to go out with Pop, with his dad. So so I cut grass and stuff in a kind of a rush. I paid for it, between the allergies and the itching, and I was huffing and puffing all morning. Last night I was dragging, but I should have known better. I try to take my time. But yeah, just give her a text. She'll get back with you. You may take her time. I got a lot of you folks know she's a little slow getting back to people, but she will get back to you. She tries to prioritize things the best she can. So yeah. Okay. That's funny. I like that. I have told us. Let me go ahead and get rid of this. Get me back in center. And I'll probably start here pretty soon. I got 4 watching. And again, I appreciate you folks coming in. I really do. A lot of people came in and said hello earlier, and I appreciate that. I got a few texts saying I have a good stream, and I'm good with that. She always replies, yeah. Well, sometimes she gets busy, and that's good. She replies. I luck out. My nephew cuts my grass. Well, you know what? I realized Friday, since I got sick, I'm not as healed as I thought I was. Even though I quit smoking and everything else, I get feeling really good one day as I try to crank out. I learned yesterday, I still got to take it slow. I still probably got a little bit more to go before I get truly back on my feet. I like to rush. I've always been a fast healer, so I was hoping I'd, snap right back into shape, but that wasn't the case this time. Oh, thanks. No, we are opposites at times, believe me. We don't agree with everything we all talk about. But she's a baby doll, and she's a Jersey girl. She's my buddy. She's my buddy in trouble. We're always getting ourselves in trouble, so. Excuse me. No. Yeah, she's my she's my partner in crime, as one might say, when it comes to this. I'm hoping that we get together. We're going to hopefully get together and do some TikTok stuff together and get a little silly and have a little fun. She did an interview, and I need to get that. In fact, maybe I'll do that and post it later in the comments afterwards. She did an interview with a young man called Open Minds. The sound was not the best. I let him know because I've been watching him. He has some subscribers, but there was like only 4 people in the stream. But man, they had a heck of a conversation. And what I'll do is I'll go back after the stream. Oh, excuse me. Excuse me again. I'll go back after the stream when I always come in. Sometimes I do, but I try to most of the time come back and thank everybody for showing up. And I'll drop the link into it, and you guys can go check it out. They actually had a pretty good conversation. It's a shame because, there are so many of these channels, opposites attract, especially when it comes to getting into trouble, into the truth. Yes, she is a very beautiful soul. Yeah, she does. And she's smart. Don't let her fool you. She's got not only wit, she's got intelligence behind those eyes. I hope she's watching this because sometimes she'll lay in bed and watch or sneak in and kind of keep an eye on me. So I hope she's seeing this. Or if she doesn't watch, she goes back and watches the stream. So amen. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and your support. Yeah, it's highly appreciated. I usually say that at the end of the night, but thank you, Jared. Yeah, I hang, this is just a hangout. Like I said, I felt bad about missing Wednesday. It was funny because I was sitting there and I'm going, what am I missing? I was running and trying to help her keep him busy so she can get stuff done. And when I finally got to sit down, I got to piddle around in my room and trying to get some paperwork done and get things ready for the next day. And I'm sitting, it's like I said, it was about 10, it was probably almost 11 o'clock. I'm sitting there going, I am missing something. What am I missing? I look at my calendar right here and I'm like, it's Wednesday. Oh no. So when I told her, she laughed. She goes, it's okay. Because I only miss if I have to. If I miss like I did Wednesday night, it shows you that I just got so much going on. It's life goes right. Isn't it the truth? It is life. Yeah, Gemma, I'm going to tell you something. She's a very bright star. That's like a few other people that come in this room. They're very bright. Always know before they even come in the room, they're around. So, yeah. There's quite a few of them. There are very shining, bright stars. Quite a few of you. Quite a few. You know, Jared, I don't know if you've ever heard this. People bum out when I say this, especially I used to say it to my kids all the time. Life is a sucking, swirly eddy of despair, filled with small moments of false hopes in an ever-blackening universe. And no, you cannot have the gaming system. It's mine. Actually, that was said in SLL Saturday Night Live skit, I think in the early 80s. I'm trying to remember the skit, and it stuck with me. That phrase stuck with me. I miss Friday again. Oh, and people have to work. Then it happens. We had screwed up my sleep time. Yeah. That's like poor Mike. I haven't seen Mike, and I know he was working nights, and then he went back to days. So I hope Mike's doing good. You like that? Yeah. It's kind of depressing. If you do it the right way, it really bums people out. But yeah. And then I heard a comedian say it a little bit after that. Maybe it was a comedian on Saturday Night Live and he just repeated it. But it stuck in my head. And I have a brain that absorbs information. Getting it out is a different story, now, especially more now that I'm older. Usually when I was younger, 20 years ago, it just come out easy. But since certain issues, the Tourette's and stuff, has gotten more progressive as I've gotten older, I've noticed it's harder to get that out. So it just kind of comes out when it wants to. So, but that's stuck in my head for some reason. And I can always remember it almost to the T every time. But it's true, life can be a sucking swirl, eddy despair filled with small moments of false hopes in an ever-blackening universe. It goes on still, and the world keeps turning. Even through that never-ending eddy despair. You shouldn't let yourself get that far in the first place. That's what we're here for. You're supposed to come in here and laugh and giggle and loosen up a little bit. One night I think I'm going to do is when I do a Gemma's replays, I'm going to pick one video, one upload, and through the whole thing, I'm going to critique her. And I will see how mad she gets at me. I won't be too harsh. It's funny because she don't watch, and then she doesn't really know what goes on until she watches. Like the first time I think she watched the stream was like a few days after I'd done it I think it was like either the first or second stream. She goes, "You guys are just talking about anything and everything." And so usually what happens, God supports me. I don't deserve it. Hey, that's what it's all about. And you deserve it a lot more than you think you do. And then and the fact that you try is probably the biggest factor of all. You know, I know there are times I'm not a good man, but I try to be the best man I could possibly be. You know, my parents raised 4 boys, and they did their best to try to make us gentlemen and honest and good to others, and to listen to when we're told to listen. So I try. It don't always happen, but I try. I have my boundaries. I have my lines you can't cross. But I think that's the way it should be. And trying is the best thing you can do. I always tell my kids, you know, I'm willing to help as long as I see you at least giving 85%. You give me 85% and I'll help you. But if I don't see more than 85%, to me, that's not trying. That means you're just kind of trying to skate by. And that sounds like a lot, but think about it. That shows 85% to me shows you're actually trying. Life's hard and it's short, so you got to make the most out of it. And that's what you do, learning to be better every day. But it gets a lot harder as it sounds. But it's a lot harder. Yeah, it is. It is very hard. Believe me. And other people, and with what's going on in this world right now. Hey, Chris, how you doing, sir? With everything that's going on in this world right now, and them trying to divide us and everything, makes it really hard. You know, this is a good Lord. You know, I'm a religious man. I'm a good, you know, I try to be the best Christian I could be. And, you know, it's hard. And I'm not always a good Christian. In fact, I'm not the best Christian. But, you know, he's testing us now. He's weeding out the good and the bad. It's not easy being a Christian, you know. But then again, I'm not an easy person. I never take the wide path. I always try to take the narrow path. I think it's more, you know, I don't mind getting lost. Getting lost, the best part is getting found or finding yourself along the way. No, I haven't seen. I'm not a big fan of the Peacemaker, other than it can be hilarious at times. But I'm not a big fan of the character. I mean, like I said, he's hilarious at times. But the son loves the show. I'm sure he watched it. I haven't seen it yet for season 2. I've seen a couple stills. That's about it. We'll see how it goes. I mean, I did watch the first season, or most of it. Yes, very true, Dragon. It is hard to be humble when you're trying to be the best you can be. And being humble is hard itself. It's like, you know, being a good man or being a good woman, it's hard right now. Because, you know, unless you're not cut off from everything, it's hard. But if you live in a sizable community, you know, me and my neighbor go around all the time. And so just stupid stuff he does. And I finally had to let that go. You know, I told myself, you know, why are you being like that, Stephen? Just let it go. So, was it Thursday or Friday night? And I found my peace, and I'm keeping it. And I'm going to do the best I can to keep it. Yeah, it's hard to be humble. It is. Oh, yeah, I heard Michael Rooker's playing Apache. Yeah, I heard that. We'll see how good it is. We'll see how he does. It'll probably be pretty good. It'll probably be hilarious. A Mac Davis song. Yeah, it is, isn't it? Peacemaker's a cult revival. There you go. I gotta watch it. Bang Bang, you mean? Jim. I do love your stuff, though. Your uploads are so common. A lot of times I forget to leave a comment because usually I just watch it, sit back, and drink a cup of coffee. I miss some of your morning shows. I try to catch them, but I get up. Once I get up, I'm up and going. I have a cup of coffees and try to get busy right away. Matt Davis. He was awesome, wasn't he, in his day? The cast of the new Superman movie is in this season. Yeah, I heard that. And Giles was telling me that. So we'll have to check it out. I will check that out. And I'm interested in this new Superman movie. We'll see how it plays out. So I'm a DC guy. And I haven't been really happy with DC. I mean, the Batman movies. No, I love the Batman. To me, that was the Batman movie I've been waiting for. The coffee is random, rather dependent. The truth. And you gotta say coffee. I can't say it like Gemma does. Yeah, I usually don't leave channels. I try to. A lot of times I don't. Now, I don't know if do I have your channel? Yeah, I have your channel. I probably just haven't left any comments. Or have you not been anything? I can't even say if I've watched it. I've been so busy. The only really uploads lately I've been watching is I went back and checked on the guy that Gemma did the interview with, just to see if he pulls in more. Yeah, I saw that, Chris. Coffee. But lately, all I've been watching is the weather. I have a couple weather guys I watch. And then I've been watching documentaries on YouTube. Some have been all right. And some of them, And some of them haven't been too bad. And then I love going to the storytellers. And these are usually what I go to sleep to if I can't find anything I'm interested in. Okay, I'll have to go check it out. You know, Jared, you got a wrench. You should drop your link in so people can come check you out. You're more than welcome to, sir. I called the number in the trailer. It's the Real Monarch recording. Oh, is it? Yeah. That's going to be interesting. This is a movie I am actually waiting for. And I read an article in what was it? What magazine was it? I was at a bookstore. What magazine was it? Was it People? I don't know. It was something because I was with a friend and they actually showed me the article and he was thanking everybody for making the Godzilla movies what they are. And he says he hopes to get them better as they go. So we'll wait and see. I can't wait for Godzilla, the new Godzilla, the Toho Godzilla. It's not going to be -1, and it's going to be 0 or +1. So it should be interesting. The Subju. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Jared, yeah, please drop your link in your channel, link to your channel in the chat. Volante, yeah. It'll be good. I'm ready. I've been keeping up with that. I try not to watch too much because I want to be surprised. And anymore, they kind of ruin the movie with the trailers now. They kind of overdo it. You just had a coyote in your driveway. You didn't happen to see a Roadrunner too, did you? Was he carrying anything from Acme? His name wouldn't have to be Wild E. Coyote, would it? Those were cartoons I loved. I was watching some old Pink Panther cartoons, and I'm like, no wonder I really didn't care too much for these. Beep, beep. Yes, but they also changed the script 6 times in a year. Yeah, and I think that's what made him feel bad. It was a pretty good article. Oh, I love the old cartoons, man. That's when cartoons were cartoons. Hanna-Barbera may have repeated their process 1,000 times with 100 different thousands of different cartoons, but they were always fun and entertaining. And this crap days. I look at some of the stuff I watched today, and I'm like, did it go backwards? I mean, what's going on? Though I gotta admit, there were some newer cartoons like Dexter's Laboratory and Ed, and Eddie, and that my kids watched that I loved just as much as they did. Oh, you hated Hanna cartoons? A lot of people actually did. Now, I was a big Johnny Quest fan. I wasn't into the Blue Falcon. Space Ghost was all right for a while. Superman's, the Super Friends, they kind of destroyed, I think. Could have been better, even though they consider it a cult classic. Oh, yeah, they were very, that's why they don't show a lot of those anymore. I mean, that's why a lot of those went straight to video. You can find them on, YouTube has them. But yeah, you wouldn't see cartoons like that made today. It wouldn't happen. Adventures of Grim and Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Yeah, I love those. Cowardly the Dog. Speed Racer. Now, here's one for you, Black Dragon. I used to, in elementary school, where was it? Yeah, 5th and 6th grade, going into 7th and 8th. I would come home from school. I'd watch Speed Racer. No, sorry. It was Dark Shadows. I'd watch Dark Shadows. Then I'd watch Speed Racer. Then Voltron. Then at 4 o'clock, if I wasn't fighting the TV for Mom, at 4 o'clock would become on a guy named Flippo, the clown, who did like a 4 o'clock movie until the 6 o'clock news. So I'd have to fight her for the TV to watch the rest of my weekday cartoons. And then on Saturday mornings, I was always the first one up. Now, when my older brothers were here, that was a different story. Star Blazers. I've seen those on YouTube and watched them, but I don't ever remember seeing them on any of the channels up here. There's a couple cartoons that I see on YouTube that I don't think we ever saw in Central Ohio. Yes, it was. Yes, it was. Star Blazers, I don't know why it wouldn't, because I don't ever remember seeing that here. Up here. Speed Racer, and then, like I said, Voltron were the big ones here. Oh, did you build a battleship, Yamato? Isn't there just an anime cartoon movie that's called the Yamato? Battleship Yamato? I'll have to go look. It was on channel 19 down there. Yeah. Now, see here, we only had 4, 6, and 10. And that was NBC was 4, ABC was 6, and 10 was CBS. 6 was the one that had ABC, was the one that showed all that. Japanese. I subbed you back, but I think I'm your 17th sub. Yeah, you guys need to put your channels in here, please, so I can go sub to them too. I thought I was already subbed to yours. But you know what? I'm back to about once a month going into my subscriptions and checking them because I'm finding YouTube helping themselves on removing people from my subscriptions. Yeah, Johnny Quest was one of my favorites. It was my second old brother's, Mike. He loved Johnny Quest. And then he got me hooked on it. In fact, I still watch those every so often because YouTube has them. Somebody else is showing them too. Hulu, I think, or somebody has them too. The original show was called Space Battleship Yamato. That's what I thought. See, I don't know much about the show because I just barely caught episodes here on YouTube. And I'm like, I do not remember this show. All I remember was Speed Racer, Voltron. And later on Saturdays, they were showing an anime called Casebook, number 9 or something like that. That I kind of liked. Yeah, Space Ghost was kind of one of my favorites. It did really good for like the first 2 or 3 seasons, then it kind of... That's like Scooby-Doo. To me, Scooby-Doo is the best on the first probably 2 to 3 years of Scooby-Doo, and then after that, probably the first 2 years. Then they would just run out of ideas, so they were just implanting anything they can implant into it to keep it going. But it's hard to believe Scooby-Doo is still a big favorite amongst the kids. Next to Blue Clues and all that. Usually an adult has to. Click on the avatar Ghost Dragon. Oh, yeah, I know. You can do that. Yeah, I know. And just go that way. Well, I'll just do it for you then. Whoops. No, don't do that. Yeah, let me do it. I have to watch because every time I try to put a channel in chat, it brings everybody right back here. Let's see if I can do it this time. And then I'm going to start our upload. Okay, this is Jared's. I hope. Let's see if it goes. I'll have to check it. Yes, it did. Yay! It worked that time. I was trying to help one lady out and kind of Skyly. I was kind of uncomfortable because she was a youngin'. There you go, Jared. There's Jared's channel. See if I can get Black's channel up here. He probably doesn't want me to. Have a little fun before we start the upload. There we go. It just says subscribe, and I did. Let me go back and subscribe to Jared's because I thought I was already subscribed. I didn't look when it was on there. Let me look. Well, now I am. I was subscribed. Why didn't I get unsubscribed? See? Because I was subscribed to you. I remember these videos. Especially some of the older stuff. Your shorts. Yeah. Now I'm going to check my thing again. That upsets me. Yeah, because I found like a couple of the news guys I follow were gone. Because they removed Salty from me, and they removed Quartering, and a couple other people. And I'm like, what the? Scooby-Doo was in Vietnam. I believe that. That was the best thing about being a mod. You can check out channels. Yes, it is. And sometimes YouTube BS. Yeah, YouTube is BS. I have to constantly check stuff. And I stopped doing it, but it looks like I am going to have to go about once a month, Go back through my subscriptions and make sure I still have everybody. When I was a kid, G.I. Joe, Transformers, He-Man, Looney Tunes, Smurfs, Voltron, Thundercats, Super Friends. Yep. A lot of those became big when my kids were kids. It shows you how old I am. Like Transfer and G.I. Joes. Those were when my kids were kids. I was just a pop sitting watching. I was just a daddy watching the tunes with them. And the thing is, I enjoy G.I. Joe was okay. Loved the Transformers. Smurfs. I don't even want to go there. My daughters loved them. Voltron, Thundercrack. Voltron was a replay of what they were showing when I was younger. They updated them. I think a lot of those were updated. Thundercats, He-Man. What was the other one? Trying to think of the other one. Which one's that? Oh, okay. This one is the one I must have saw advertised. Yeah. Yeah, this was the one I saw somewhere. I saw a page for it. I didn't really pay attention to it. Like I said, that was one of the cartoons I really didn't know much about until now. Clutch Cargo, yes. Now, see, the only reason I remember Clutch Cargo was it wasn't played here, but we had relatives in Chillicothe, and they picked up a channel that actually showed Clutch Cargo, and I got to see it there. Robotech, yep. Yeah, I got that, Chris. It's not a cartoon. I just saw the picture. I assumed it was like one of those computer animated cartoons. I didn't look at. Like I said, I don't know. I'm still learning about that one because that was one they didn't show up here. Heck, I was shocked when they started showing Dragon Ball Z up here. I was like, holy crap! But it was on Kids 28 Kids Network. Or Saturday cartoons and weekday cartoons. So my son got to fell in love with Dragon Ball Z right off rip. And I made sure he sees that because I was already looking at the magazines. Jared, you're a better salesman as me. I try to play kind of chill, but thanks, man. I appreciate you. Yeah, make sure you hit those thumbs up. Because it does help. It helps Gemma a lot. Because you got to remember, these are for Gemma. These views and everything go to Gemma's channel. Show her a little love, share it, spare it. Throw it out the window, I don't care. Just put that thumbs up. Now, what time we got here? I'm going to start our first upload. You guys keep talking because usually I've started it by now, but we're just having a good old time rambling and reminiscing. But I'm going to go ahead and start this for the first upload because that's what we do on Gemma's Replays. Let me get it loaded. You guys keep chatting. Yeah, Dark Shadows was actually one of my favorite shows because it was like a monster soap opera. I loved it. I was 2 when Dark Shadows was on. My mom watched it, and I'm 55 years old. Yeah. My mom wasn't a big fan of it. I made her watch it. Dark Shadow has been around for a while. Okay, hold on. Let me get this going. Right here it is. Yeah, what is up, Gemma? Okay. Sounds pretty good on this, so you guys shouldn't have to be messing with your sound. Make sure I got everything going here. Chat is down. Looks good. This one's about a year old, so we're getting into newer territory. So I probably will take a break after the next one because I try to keep everything. It's called Gemma's Replays Classic, so I try to keep at least a year or more older. UFO, I barely remember, and I think it was shown on when cable came here. We were the first people in our neighborhood to get cable. And I remember that show, The Champions. Actually, one of my favorite go back tos was Lost in Space. And then, of course, Outer Limits. I liked Outer Limits more than I liked Twilight Zone. Though I liked Twilight Zone, to me, Outer Limits was more that sci-fi. I'm into that kind of. Shazam was big, so was the Herculoids. Actually, I have Herculoids action figures, well, little guys. I don't know where I got them at when I was a kid or when I got older. I found them at a toy show, and they're buried somewhere in a box. Now, Shazam, I remember watching it. Actually, it wasn't called Shazam, it was Captain Marvel, but Marvel and them had a big fight over that, and they won. Yeah, Mr. Smith did have to go. I was never a Mr. Smith fan. He was to me like that annoying part of the show that I just always tried to block out. Night Gallery. Now, I love Night Gallery. That was the other one. Tales from the Crypt came later. What was the other one? And I catch it on, we have on the antenna channel here, Tales from the Dark Side. You had Tales from the Crypt, and then you had Tales from the Dark Side. And I like that one too. Okay, let me get her put up here. Share screen. There we go. Now, this one's about extraterrestrials, so this should be a good one. Share, and then I'll make it big. Okay, let me put this down so I can get myself out of the way. Down in my corner. I can actually remove myself. Okay. Yeah, Tales from the Dark Side. It was one of those late night shows that didn't come on till like midnight. And that's what I loved about it so much. And they still show those. We have a channel 53 up here. And they show them all the time on the weekend. Tales from the Dark Side. Sometimes they'll show the new and old Outer Limits because they try to bring it back a couple times. The same thing with the Twilight Zone. But I didn't like the new Twilight Zones as much as the older ones. Had I been on the ship, Smith would have, I'd have booted him out a long time ago. He'd have been floating around in space a long time ago. Sightings, I remember that show. My first paranormal show. Sightings was a great show. I forgot all about that show, Chris. Thanks. I'm going to go look it up and see if there's if they still have any of those. I know that one of the channels, was it History or somebody shows them every so often. That's like the other one, Fact or Fiction. I like the Fact or Fiction, paranormal Fact or Fiction, and of course, Destination Truth, which we've talked about. Okay, I'm going to get this started. Oh, do they? Yeah, now that I got that link, because Giles never did send me the link. So I'm going to have to go check Shadowbox out. Okay, let me get this baby started. And let's do this. That didn't work. And I'll probably turn off my mic.
What is up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel, and if you're
Guys,
new here,
enjoy.
just welcome. My name is Gemma Jade, but today we are going to be discussing bizarre cases of encounters with extraterrestrials, high strangeness, part 6. I know I cover a lot of strange things here on this channel, and the topics
These were
for
great.
discussion really run the
Plan on doing
gamut, but
more
that's
high strange.
because I want to know as much as I possibly can about all different types of phenomena, so that if something ever happens to me involving any realm or creature or whatever else I talk about here on this channel, I at least am more likely to know what's going on. However, sometimes I just find some incredibly bizarre, allegedly real accounts of encounters with strange beasts and creatures and all different types of aliens in general. I've covered more than a few cases of encounters with aliens that I couldn't think of any other titles for those videos other than the High Strangeness series, because that's exactly the realm in which they all seem to have taken place. Today is another one of those videos. I've got a collection here of extremely bizarre and incredibly strange encounters that I thought you all would enjoy. I've come to find that the one thing that remains guaranteed when it comes to these encounters is that absolutely nothing at all is actually guaranteed. That's why I love covering these so much. You never know what you're going to get. I know you guys will love these too, so let's jump right in. I decided to start us off with one of the most bizarre and outlandish cases I have ever come across of someone claiming to have had encounters with extraterrestrial beings. Well, at least it's the most bizarre and outlandish for people who have claimed to have had those encounters in the desert, because this entire video are the most outlandish and bizarre I've ever seen or heard of. I found this one in a book by Timothy Beckley called Strange Effects of Flying Saucers, and it's said to have happened in the summer of 1967. The moon was shining large and brightly in the sky in some desert that's still unnamed to this day, out in California, when it happened in the early hours of the morning. It was dark outside when 18-year-old Jerry James, along with his parents and younger sister, were driving through the Badlands. They were headed from their home in Colorado to a vacation home that they kept in California. The whole family was excited to be going to Cali, and the mood in the car was upbeat and reflected that excitement. They were all having fun and getting along well, despite the fact that they had been in the car for a total of 18 hours at that point. They drove a Chevy pickup and were pulling a house trailer. They needed to stop, and so they pulled into a rest area and got out and stretched their legs. It was the last leg of their journey, and none of them could wait to get to where they were going already. Like, they just wanted to get there. As they stood there, though, the whole family seemed to notice the strange object hovering in the distance in the night sky above them. At first, they just assumed it was some sort of normal aircraft, like an airplane or a helicopter or something, but they quickly realized that wasn't the case. It was somewhat spherical, the size of an average vehicle, and it resembled one of those top toys as it kept spinning around and around in the sky. I didn't know how else to explain what a top toy is. It was spinning as though it was on some sort of axis or something. It was just wandering around at first, and the family watched, but they started to absolutely panic when the craft emitted a very bright beam of light, like a giant flashlight in the sky, and it kept wandering all around the desert below it and all around them, almost as though it were searching for something, as if it were sending out some sort of searchlight and looking for something on the ground. The family could only stare at it, totally bewildered and a bit frightened for a few minutes, but once the beam trained and shined down right onto them, their fright turned to all-out terror as they wondered what in the world was going on and what was going to happen to them. The UFO actually sped through the sky in order to spin and hover directly above them, and the light was so bright the family recalled that it was as though suddenly it was broad daylight out instead of being the wee hours of the morning. The family and the craft were completely silent during the whole ordeal as they waited in fear to see what was going to happen next. Just as the family started to entertain the idea that they were possibly in for some big-time trouble, the beam of blinding light suddenly went dark as though someone had merely flipped a light switch, and the craft took off at incredible speeds into the night sky. The family was confused and really scared, rightfully so, but they had no idea that the worst, objectively, And the weirdest part of the ordeal was yet to come. The next day, the family was once again only a few miles from that same service station, and they got out at that service station once again to stretch their legs. I was wondering about this, so I looked a little more into it and I looked it up, and it turned out they hadn't continued through to California the night before and had stopped somewhere for the night, making it so that they had to pass the service station again before moving on to their vacation home. At least that's what I made of it. Right? Because they were sleeping back in the trailer. Why would they stop at that same place? I guess it was broad daylight. I don't know. I don't know if I would ever stop there again, but maybe I would. If I wasn't who I was, would I stop there again? Probably not. Once again, as they stood there, they almost immediately noticed a vessel that looked like it was silver in color as it came speeding through the sky right towards them, and was so close that they all said they could not only see, but probably could have counted all the little rivets on the sides and all around that craft. It was metallic, and as it hovered above the family, the mother was so terrified, she crumpled to the ground in a heap right there on the spot. She fainted. She actually had to be revived with smelling salts. I don't know if the family just carried those around. Maybe she was one of those fainters, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, she was woken up with the smelling salts. And as soon as she was up and moving again, the family decided that it would be a good idea to get into the trailer to hide and wait out whatever was happening with the craft that was still spinning and hovering above them. However, once they went to the back of the vehicle where the trailer was, they saw that a surprise was waiting for them there too. Just moments earlier, when they had initially exited it, the place had been an absolute pigsty. It was a mess. Their beds were unmade. There were dirty dishes and clothes all over the place. They had just woken up and no one had cleaned anything up yet. The entire trailer was not only spotless, but pristine, with all of the dishes done, the beds neatly and expertly made, and the whole trailer just sparkling clean. Everything was put away and in its proper place, almost like while they were all standing right there and stretching their legs out, being terrified by the craft above them, which at this point had already flown away, someone had gone inside and worked some sort of magic. Even if it had been a person who had gotten in to play some kind of joke on them or whatever the case may be, surely the family would have noticed. And also, it had only been a couple of minutes that had passed.
Vixen, how you doing,
there was
dear?
only one thing that was out of place, and that was a lone dish on their counter, and it had something inside of it. The family walked over to the dish and stared confusedly at what looked like a starving carrot. However, the carrot started to transform and move around right before their very eyes, and they all watched it do so. It sprouted roots, but the way that they moved reminded the family more of tentacles than anything else, and those tentacle roots grew quickly as the carrot, or whatever it was, fell to the ground and started writhing around. It was ever expanding and becoming tangled as it grew, causing the terrified family to keep stepping back in order to avoid becoming tripped up by or entangled in all of it. The plant, the dish it had originally sat upon, and the cabinet near it were all covered in some sort of slimy, green, goopy substance. Jerry said about it, quote, "It was a vile-smelling substance, and other than that, I can't tell you much about it. One thing was strange, though. When I touched it with a pencil, it ate up the wood and the lead in a matter of seconds," end quote. Terrifying. What if someone had poked it? Like with their finger, not a pencil. I tried to find an exact timeline and really couldn't come up with one. I don't know the exact timing of all of this, but the family did eventually get back on the road that day. They couldn't just stay there at the rest stop all day long, right? Waiting for something else to happen. So they moved on. However, as he drove, the father noticed that he was no longer in control of the vehicle, and it would not only accelerate of its own accord, but it would also brake and move around all on its own. They reached another service station eventually and pulled in to get some gas. When they pulled the gas cap off, it made a noise as though it were burping, and a nasty, disgusting smell came hissing out of it. Making things even stranger was the fact that the driver's seat seemed to have melted or eroded away somehow and was barely there anymore, even though as he sat in it only seconds before, the father said it was perfectly fine. And what did they do with the carrot? They don't even explain that. Like, what happened to the carrot? Did they just toss it, leave it to someone else? Like for someone else to find so their hand or something can get eaten up? I'm serious, guys. Like, they don't have any more information about this. The ignition key glowed in the dark and had somehow become rubber-like in its malleability. The case is completely and totally baffling.
Sharing
but more
that
than that,
bacon.
there is
You're
no
gonna make me
more
hungry
information at all, as I just said. So I assume they weren't abducted, or at least I'll assume to the best of their collective and individual knowledge, they weren't, because I looked and looked and
Smoochie,
couldn't
I hope
find
you're still
anything at all
wandering
about
around
this
out
case
there.
other than what I just told you. So my
Doing
guess
good.
is it was just an odd and freakish occurrence, and the family were eventually able to move on with their lives. Somehow. Who can really know for sure, though? And it does make me wonder if it's true. Then why is there nothing else online or anywhere else about it? Could it be being suppressed because it is, in fact, true? My money's on yes, that is more than likely what's going on here. Let's move out of the deserts of California and onto the country of Spain, where I found an account of a rather violent encounter that allegedly happened in the city of Badajoz. This city has been occupied since the Bronze Age and has been the subject of many wars between Spain and Portugal. It's a very popular tourist destination for that reason, and not somewhere you would immediately think of when you think of encounters with aliens. With that being said, in 1976, it became the place where one of the most bizarre encounters with extraterrestrials has ever happened before or since in the entire country. On November 12th, 1976, at around 1:45 in the morning, two soldiers who worked at the Talavera La Real Air Base and whose names were Jose Maria Trejo and Juan Carrizosa Luan were on patrol at the area of the base where the fuel was stored and were having a fairly normal and somewhat boring night. Typically, while these two men were on duty, nothing ever happened, and they themselves admitted that the nights were always uneventful, but that night was the night when everything would change. So the two men were just walking around patrolling the area, as was their duty, when they both snapped out of whatever thoughts they had been having by a blaring noise of what sounded to them like some sort of static or other radio interference. The two men immediately thought that they were dealing with trespassers and wasted no time in looking for whoever it
Well, they
was.
probably thought
But
they heard
as they
walkie-talkies.
searched, the sound got much louder and much more intense. It quickly transformed from a droning static to a high-pitched whistling noise, and throughout the next few minutes, it became more high-pitched and very, very much louder. After about 5 minutes of building in volume and intensity, it stopped suddenly, and there was an eerie silence that the two men were left to contemplate when it was all over. The men still weren't sure what in the world was going on, what was happening, and they continued to patrol with their weapons at the ready. They knew that something very strange was happening at the very least, and as they moved through the base with their weapons out, the sound returned suddenly and all at once to such a degree that the men were all but incapacitated by it. The sound finally stopped again, and as soon as it did, the men saw a light shining down from the sky vertically, but they described it too as being like a flash of light that lasted for about 30 seconds, and then it vanished as well. As that was happening, another guard arrived. This one had a dog with him, and he said that he had also seen and heard some pretty strange things, so he ran over to see what was going on. The men radioed the information of the events into their superiors and were ordered to do a sweep of the entire base. They searched methodically, walking parallel to a large wall that separated the main road from the base itself. Everything was quiet at first, and the dog was calm for a few minutes, but after walking several hundred yards, the sound of snapping twigs and sticks, along with what they said was a vortex of air passing near them, caused them to let the dog go so that it could investigate the area where the noises were coming from and the men could hang back a little bit. The men were watching. The dog ran off into the darkness, but quickly returned, seemingly dizzy, disoriented, and nauseous. Despite it being sick, the dog once again ran towards the same area and again came back stumbling around and unable to walk properly. It only took a moment for the dog to return to its normal self, and when it did, it circled the men in a maneuver it had been trained to do when it was alerting its handlers to an outside threat and letting them know it would be needing to protect them. It just kept circling around and around them, not letting them move anywhere. With that, the men held their weapons aimed at the darkness as they huddled close to one another and stared into the blackness expectantly, waiting for someone or something to emerge that their dog had already deemed threatening. The dog continued circling around them as a human-shaped, glowing green light appeared in the darkness where the activity seemed to be. The figure slowly walked closer to the men, and it didn't take long for them to realize that they were looking at some sort of otherworldly entity that stood at 10 feet tall or more and seemed to be composed of millions of small light points, the brightness of which was more intense around the edges. The entity was described as wearing a helmet on its glowing green head and having freakishly long arms and legs, but no hands and feet. Mr. Trejo fainted, but before he could even hit the ground, one of the other men had opened fire on the entity. The entity seemed impervious to the 50 or more rounds the soldier pumped into it, except that it glowed brighter each time one of the bullets struck it, before it seemingly flashed incredibly brightly for a second and then vanished into thin air right before their very eyes. Immediately after the entity had vanished into the air, that same whistling noise pierced the air for about 15 seconds before it got eerily still and quiet out there again, and then the men set about helping their fallen friend. They got Trejo back to the base, and that was that for the rest of the night. The following morning, more than 50 soldiers searched the entire property of the base to try and locate the strange entity, but not only did they not find any sign of it, they went to the area where the soldier just opened fire on this thing, and they found no bullets and no casings, and upon further and closer inspection of the man who did the firing's weapon, it seemed like it hadn't ever even been discharged at all. So it was like none of it ever happened.
Oh, wow.
What did the entity do? Come back with its friends and clean up?
Why not?
So weird. The base was obviously put on high alert for several days following the intrusion, but nothing else happened, and eventually Trejo would regain consciousness again. This took several days. When he passed out and fainted in front of that entity, he stayed out for days. However, a few days later, he lost his vision and slumped to the floor in the middle of the mess hall, seemingly for no apparent reason. He was treated and had no further episodes, but the doctors could never figure out what had been the cause of the strange illnesses in the first place. The incident would go on to be chalked up as a joint hallucination between the three men and apparently the dog.
It's always
brought on by stress, lack of sleep, and panic, and not too long after, it was seemingly all but forgotten about. And when I said it was a violent encounter, I'm sure you guys were expecting something different, but it was a violent encounter, meaning the soldiers, in that they shot this unknown being with more than 50 rounds when it hadn't done anything except maybe accidentally make their dog a little bit sick for just a few seconds. This is why other entities, other creatures, beings, whatever you want to call them, Bigfoot, and most species of aliens do not want human beings having any sort of proof of their existence. Look what we do. Seriously, what if they would have shot it and killed it dead, or shot it and wounded it? They would have taken it and collected it, and they'd probably still be keeping it alive somehow, just experimenting on it or picking through it. We got to wise up, guys. We got to wise up. We got to brighten up and lighten up and spiritually ascend. Last, but definitely not least, is an encounter I like to call alien pancakes. It all started on the morning of April 18th, 1961, in a rural area of Wisconsin called Eagle River. On that morning, a 60-year-old chicken farmer by the name of Joe Simonton sat down on his porch to have himself some breakfast. The morning was calm and tranquil, but was about to take a turn for the highly strange, if I ever did see something take that turn. As Joe sat there slowly eating, drinking his coffee, and looking out over his chickens, the peaceful morning was shattered by a loud sound that Joe himself described as being like, quote, knobby tires on wet pavement, end quote. The noise seemed to have been coming from behind the house, and it was strange enough to him that he stopped what he was doing, he stopped eating his breakfast, and immediately got up and went to investigate it. When he did so, he saw a silver disc that was about 12 feet high and about 30 feet in diameter. It had something similar to exhaust pipes coming out of the side, and he watched as it came down out of the sky and began to hover directly over his property. A hatch opened up on the bottom of the craft, and three little men with dark skin that stood at around 5 feet tall and were all dressed identically in what looked like two-piece black suits, turtlenecks, and helmets stepped out. Joe said the strange little men were, quote, Italian looking, end quote, and were holding something that looked to him like a jug. The beings didn't hesitate at all in approaching him, and they gestured toward that little jug. And even though they didn't actually speak out loud or say anything, Joe was telepathically told that he needed to fill the jug with water for them. So he took it from them and said about it that it was, quote, a beautiful thing, a thermos jug-like bottle unlike any jug I have ever seen here on Earth, end quote. As he began filling the jug with water, the beings pulled something out of the craft that Joe described as looking like a flameless gas grill. And when he returned with the full jug, the beings looked hard at work preparing something on the grill-like object. Upon closer inspection, Joe said that the food looked something like what we call pancakes. The beings then stacked the pancakes on top of one another. Each one was about 3 inches in diameter and had little holes throughout them, and they presented the stack to Joe before saluting him, getting back into their craft. The craft then took off into the sunny morning sky at such a speed that it was, quote, gone in 2 seconds, end quote, according to the befuddled chicken farmer. He would later tell reporters, quote, if that was their food, God help them, because I took a bite of one of them and it tasted like a piece of cardboard. If that's what they lived on, no wonder they were small. When they left, I stood there in the driveway with a pile of greasy pancakes and my mouth open, wondering what the heck I just saw. What happened? End quote. Even though Joe's story sounded too crazy to be true, other people in the area did report having seen that exact same craft. And once they came forward, it seemed like all of the United States had its eyes on this sleepy little town in the middle of nowhere in Wisconsin. The United States Air Force were the ones who were really focusing on the event for whatever reason, as well as the National Investigating Committee for Aerial Phenomena. The pancakes were analyzed by the Food and Drug Laboratory of the United States Department of Health, Education, and Welfare, who came to the rather disappointing and somewhat mundane conclusion that they had been made up of hydrogenated fat, cornstarch, buckwheat hulls, soybean hulls, and wheat bran. I know that's not what anyone was expecting, but does that mean that they weren't made by aliens? Not in my opinion. Just because it was made from simple things that we have here on Earth doesn't mean aliens didn't gather those things and learn how to make a flippin' pancake, right? Let me know what you all think in the comments about that, though. Even if it doesn't disprove aliens, it doesn't prove them either. And as all of this was happening, newspapers from all over the country were mockingly reporting on the incident and making a laughing stock out of poor Joe Simonton. He stuck to his story, though, and didn't care who believed him and who didn't. In fact, the United States Air Force investigator named J. Allen Hynek came to the conclusion that at the very least, Joe believed what he was saying. Hynek said, quote, there's no question that Mr. Simonton felt that his contact had been a real experience. Simonton answered questions directly, did not contradict himself, insisted on the facts being exactly as he stated, and refused to accept embellishments or modifications. He stated he was sure that we wouldn't believe him, but that he didn't care whether he was believed. He stated simply that this happened and that was that. He appeared quite sincere to me and did not appear to be the perpetrator of a hoax, end quote.
Usually,
See,
yeah.
To me, guys, that assessment alone lends so much more credence to this encounter and is one of the main reasons why I included it here in this video.
Too. Well,
think about
it. I believe he passed
in my opinion as well, saying in your expert opinion that someone didn't seem like they were trying to pull off a hoax or a scam is the same as saying that more than likely it's true what happened to him, right? So this guy says, in my expert opinion, he wasn't trying to fool anyone. He wasn't perpetrating a hoax. So what does that mean there, Mr. Hynek? That it was true, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching. I found some information that was hidden in the bowels of only a handful of case studies that were done on this encounter that were not included in the large majority of them. And that's that in the months that followed this encounter, Joe's chickens got sick and almost all of them died. He was absolutely sure that the encounter with the strange beings had everything to do with the death of his chickens, and he would tell a friend of his, Judge Frank W. Carter, all about it. Carter would then write, quote, Simonton informed me that 23 chickens died since April 18th and thought that maybe that may have been caused by the alleged saucer. He sells eggs to customers in town here, and the sheriff, county agricultural agent, and myself drove out from a health standpoint to see if the eggs might be affected by radiation. We took one deceased chicken to a local vet who thought the chicken might maybe be sick from food deficiency and becoming cannibals, pecking at each other where feathers drop off and kill each other. No Geiger was used, however, end quote. As far as the Air Force was concerned, the case was just simply forgotten about and not really ever mentioned again after they decided it was simply, quote, unexplained. That's all there is to that particular case, guys. And forgive me because this
Jim,
really
you have
ended
a
up being
wonderful
a rather
Mother's Day
short video
too.
compared to what I normally do. But I hope that it was fun nonetheless. And just for the record, I do believe in each and every one of these cases, and that's why I chose to bring them all to you here today. Guys, I just think that back in the day, and that's not to say it still doesn't happen today, but it probably does on a much smaller scale. Experiences like those I just reiterated to you guys, cases like the ones I just read off to you, seem to get swept under the rug and
They
forgotten
do.
all about, with the media and local politicians and
They're not
other
taken
people in
seriously
authoritative
because they're so
positions trying to
corny
make a
and weird.
mockery out of scared and confused witnesses in order to not only shut them up, but also to make them seem like they're crazy to the rest of the world or to anyone who dares to ask more questions and believe in the encounters. That's all I have for you today, guys. Please give this video a big thumbs up if you enjoyed the content, if you enjoyed hanging out with me, and if you enjoyed hanging out with each other for as little a time as it was in the premiere. Please, please, please spread the love by sharing this video. Check out my shorts. I think I've been doing all right for someone who just started doing shorts, right? Am I right? Right. Please make sure your notification bell is turned on for all notifications, because a lot of people haven't been getting them. On Wednesday nights, you will find myself in
That's another thing. Yeah, check your subscriptions and stuff. YouTube does have a habit
card, one random card from a random deck for live intuitive oracle, and we usually go to like 10:30 or 11 o'clock. And I try to fit everyone in. So if that's something you're interested in, please try to get your name on the list, which all you have to do is come into the chat and say something, say whatever, and we immediately put your name on the list. If you don't want a reading, you can just say pass, but please try to do that by 10.
Yeah, because a lot of stuff she's talking about now, we've changed. The things have changed. One second here. Let me drop this down. I'm having a hard time turning it off. There we go. Okay, in case I decide to do another one, but I don't think I will. It's 12:30 now. I usually take it to about 1. So, yeah, it's almost 12:30. I'm glad you got rid of it. Yeah, some of those stories, it's sad because a lot of the encounters that I've come across over the years with people and stuff, not too many. I get UFO stuff and stuff like that, but a lot of the stories I get are the ones I'm usually more interested in is the creepy stuff, the ghosts and the cryptids, and the weird things that go on roadsides and truckers and officers and ambulance. Those are the stories that kind of get my tingly sensations going, that I'm more interested in. That's usually what my life is full of that kind of stuff. I've probably in my life, I can actually say I've probably seen maybe 3 unidentified flying objects. One was actually with my dad a few years back on 4th of July, right out in our front yard. There was an orb. We've seen a couple of those, both of us have. But sometimes it's, you don't know what you're really looking at. Because some of them are pretty high up, and it's just like a dot just flying by. And it's not a jet. And a lot of the one we saw on the 4th of July was pretty wild because we live next to Don Scott Airport, which is part of the OSU campus. And they do a lot of the campus, like students take, aviation there and stuff. And they have a couple other places. So a lot of the landing comes in from right north of me. You can see it. They go right, and sometimes I get a little nervous because they get pretty low. But it was one flying over doing that. You could tell it was somebody being trained because they were doing circles and looked like they were practicing landing and stuff. And it was funny because we were watching this guy come back around for a second. I looked like he was getting ready to do another landing because they do landing and takeoffs. And all of a sudden we saw this, this white orb came out of nowhere. And it was booking. It was coming right at the plane. We thought for sure. And just as it got almost to the plane, I wonder if he saw it because it did a 90-degree turn and went off and shot off. And it shot off like east. It was gone. It boom. But yeah, some of these stories she tells, some of the stories I hear, these people will probably never tell those stories again unless they tell them to family and friends. You'll never hear some of these stories. Like there's people out there that have got stories they'll never tell to anybody because they know people won't believe them. Maybe now they should talk because a lot of people are being a little more open and aware of this stuff. But I'm glad you got a young couple to get that off your hands there, Vixen. What make was that? You said it was a 99? What make was it? Hey, Al 13. Oh, yeah, no doubt, Al 13. They very much get judged. You know how many times I see things that, I don't know if you know me, but I see the things that follow people. And I get, when I was a kid trying to tell people, I stopped talking because people thought I was wacko. I mean, what do you do? So, yeah, so most people won't talk about it because, yeah, they get instantly judged. I don't think it's as bad now. I mean, you got a pretty good division now of believers and non-believers. But now you got a section of people who don't believe, but now have seen something and they don't know how to act. So they're talking about it. You know, that was like the perfect case of this was the drones and all the craziness that was going on over Jersey, along the coast, and now all over the place because it's still going on. Yes, that's very true too, Al. That there's a lot of people that are believers that judge. And a lot of that you'll find that judging is because it doesn't meet their narrative or what they believe, so they immediately judge you on it, which is sad too, because, you know, the idea of communities like this is to gather information, not criticize each other or fight over each other or get crazy with each other. It's gather information. Everybody should be working together. It's all right to speak your theories and your opinions on what you think, but right now we just need to gather the information. That's what it's about right now. You can't come to any solid, even a good solid theory. You know, you got scientists and people who think they're experts on this stuff. I hate to tell you, when it comes to the paranormal, I don't care how many shows you're on, how many TV shows you do, how many events you do, how many books you write. I don't consider paranormal people to be experts because everybody's still learning. Now, scientists will tell you we're still learning too. But it just cracks me up because, you know, we still don't have a lot of answers about a lot of things. You know, it's like this, you know, them going to be honest with us about UFOs. It's not going to happen. And if it does happen, it's not going to happen in the way people think. Disclosure is not going to happen the way that people think it's going to happen. I've seen some UFOs. One was humongous. Really, it was a saucer. It was parked in a fog bank and only an edge was visible. Now, I've seen pictures like that. So that's actually a common sighting, Vixen. And it would not surprise me. Was it a Volkswagen? Oh, really? I would have liked to have seen that. Didn't you send me pictures or show me once? I know somebody else had an RV too. Theirs was a Volkswagen. It was a small one though. I think you did show me, and you talked about it before. You have to, yeah, critical thinking is very important, which requires asking questions and doing research. And that's so true. You can't, I always tell people you got to form your own opinion. And I'm not going to criticize your opinion because it's your opinion. You have formed it. You did your own research. You came to your own conclusion. That's what it's all about. But when it comes to as a community, our job is to, I think, to gather the information and put it out there and let people look into it, research it, and come to their own decisions. That's what it's all about. You know, I'm not going to force you, hey, because I'm a Christian, I believe that aliens are not aliens, but they're part of the fallen angels. I'm not going to force that on you. That's a theory of mine, and it has been for a very long time. And I know I'm not the only one with that theory, but I'm not going to force it on you. I'm not going to make it a big deal because I love listening to everybody else's opinion too. Because I tell you what, there's some good theories out there, and there's some theories I kind of wish they'd go back and kind of rethink. But yeah, and my theories ain't that great, my opinions ain't that great, but all the years of research I've done, you know, especially when my dad handed me a Bible and Chariot of the Gods, you would think I'd be more of the UFO ancient aliens. No, it just led me to make more contact and look into things a lot deeper. You laughing? Yeah. And by the way, thanks for coming in, Al. Appreciate it. And that's sci-fi too. I want to appreciate sci-fi coming in. I hadn't seen them for a while. I'll make sure. And Gemma does look at these. So if you guys want to say hi to Gemma, she does come back and watch these videos. This is her channel. She lets me do this. I did this for her. You know, I'm just the gemstone keeper, a guardian of the gemstones, a keeper of the list. And she offered me to do a couple nights. Not always on, you know, it's not ever always on Wednesdays, Saturdays. Like last Wednesday, I got too busy and didn't realize I missed my own stream. I'm glad I didn't put one up. But yeah, I do these for Gemma. Gemma's replay is just to get people to go back and kind of look at her older, you know, the catalog. Because it's a shame because all these YouTube creators, they have all these back catalogs. And I wonder how many people actually go back and watch. Now, I know the people who've been following the channel for a while probably all seen that. But people that are new to subscribing to channels, you know, it's important to go back and look at how the channel grew, you know, what they did in the past. And it's fun to go look at some of these older videos and see how much people have changed and how much she's changed. Yeah, Gemma is a very good person. It's the only reason why I do these. The only reason I'm here. She did a reading for me about 4 years ago, and my hands don't always work the way I want them to. So instead of sending her an email saying how much I appreciated her doing my reading, my oracle reading, and I kind of told her what I thought, I just went ahead and sent her a video. While my dad was in the dentist, I sat in the car and did a video telling her, hey, I appreciate the oracle reading. Told her what I thought might be okay, you know, what I thought might happen and what might be, you know, legit and a couple other things. And she was really impressed with that. And we've been buddies ever since. Hold on one sec. Yes, it sucks when you have tremors because it gets a whole body going. As a believer in a universal creator, I consider aliens as another life form created by the creator. And I like that thought. That's a nice way of putting it. And that's a good theory to have, a good belief to have. I used to do tarot a long time ago. I'm going to pick it back up. Oh, really? Yeah, she does oracle. And she's usually pretty good, too. I had to stop doing my readings. Actually, I just told her not to worry about it because, you know, she does, people who join her Patreon, anybody that does a $20 Patreon gets a free reading every month. And then her Friday night 1 cards. And that takes a lot out of you. And she's an intuitive reader. So it makes it even, because she picks up. I mean, there's nights, even when since the nights have gotten a little shorter. I mean, like last Friday, when she was done, she was tired. I think aliens are jinn. Interesting, which are demons, yep, in Christian faith. The jinn have been around since the beginning, even before time. They are a lot more related to the Christian belief than people realize. If you believe it in that way, if you're a Christian, you believe in that. I have my reasons to think this, but too much to explain. Yeah, that's why I don't go into my theories and think, because I could go for miles and I get tongue tied anyway. So I'm into oracle cards Dragons are my favorite, though. This oracle is pretty cool. There you go. Yeah, I sent Gemma a couple dragon ones. Yeah, they can take a lot out of you. And there's been nights, even when I first started doing the list for her, and we'd go to 11 o'clock at night. That poor girl, that poor woman, that poor Jersey lady, I felt so bad for her. She was host. She was tired. And you could tell. Takes a lot out of you. I just got oracle cards, small deck. Owl themed, of course. Of course. You know, owl. The owl is my animal. Or, yeah, my spirit guide, whatever you want to call it. I've actually had 3 people tell me that. And then I actually did my own research, and it turned out it was true. I've always, ever since I was a kid, me and my oldest brother have always had really big fascination with dragons. Yeah, actually, I used my real name on YouTube, Stephen Lee Davis, for years. Then I switched to DragonZW, but Mr. Black Dragon, we started showing up in the rooms together, and everybody kept saying Dragon. We'd both respond, and I knew he'd been in that room a lot longer than I've been in that room, so I added the Ghost, because that's my old fighting name, was Ghost Dragons. Back in the day, many moons ago. They're beautiful creatures. Yes, they are. I lived in a home when I was married. We lived in my grandmother's house. We took over the grandmother's house, and they had an old tree, and these guys, they come and trimmed the tree down to cut the power lines down, and it turned out it was hollow, and there was actually a nest of screech owls, and there was only one of the babies left. None of them were passed. She must have only had one egg hatch, and so we took care of it while the Audubon people came out, brought a box up, showed us how to take care of it until they got everything ready. And then like a week later, they came out, put a box on a tree that was real next to it, that was in good shape, and hung it on the tree. And we put the baby back in that box. That first night, you could hear it just calling for its mama. And the next night, I was shocked. We saw cars stopped in the middle of our street. And I go out the front door, and mama had the baby out on the street and was trying to get to fly. And so we stopped traffic and made sure nobody would run them over. It was beautiful. And then she finally flew away. It was awesome. Yeah, they do. But hearing that poor little baby cry for his mom as soon as we put it back in that box, we didn't think it'd come back. The Audubon people actually stayed in our yard overnight. And the next morning they said, "What? It came. Something came and sat on top of the box. It looked like maybe a mother." And they left. And the next night, like I said, she had it out trying to get it to fly. You probably have several spirit animals. It's ghosty. I have 6 that I know of. Well, my Chinese zodiac is a rabbit. That's because the year I was born in. And as for spirit animals, I really hope one of them is either a newt or a salamander, because I love my little amphibians, especially newts and salamanders. I don't know why, but it just have. Turtles, another for me. Really, I like turtles too. In fact, I have fire belly toads behind me over here. And I had newts. Godzilla Jr. passed away about 3 years ago. He got to be about 2 inches. He was a fire belly newt. He got about this big. He actually started getting bumps. That's why I call him Godzilla Jr. Salamanders are fun, but they're a little harder to take care of than newts because their environment has to be, they live in, really muddy kind of water terrestrial. So you have to really keep the environment clean. And because, when those little guys, when your amphibians start dropping off, you need to be worried. It's like the bees. When you stop seeing bees, you need to worry. Same thing with these little critters, because these are animals that tell you if your environment's good or bad. But yeah, I'm thinking about getting a turtle or a tortoise. I was told tortoises live a lot longer than a turtle, but I had a friend. He had a turtle ever since he was a kid. And he grew up, and then turtle literally grew up with him. He's 63 now. And he still has that turtle. He took dang good care of that turtle. The guy's about this big. And they're the best of buddies, too. I think a Komodo dragon would be a pretty good animal to have as a spirit animal. They're pretty wicked. I had a friend that had a Komodo dragon too, but they kind of came and took it from me. He was in the service and brought it home with me, snuck it home, raised it from an egg. And he lived down in Athens, Ohio. But he had a chunk of property too, and it had it all fenced off, and it couldn't get out. I don't know how long it took before they realized he even had it. He grew him up. He was a big old guy. I always liked, because every time I saw it, I thought of the Johnny Quest episode at the beginning of Johnny Quest, where you see the big guy walking the 4 Komodo dragons. Because he walked his on a leash around the yard when he was out there. Never took it. Now, he had woods. He had a fence, a gate that he would walk it in the woods so nobody could see him coming and going. I'm glad you stopped by, Al, Vixen. What time we got here? Oh, only 12:42. I'll probably shut it down about 1 o'clock. I was going to say midnight, but it's after midnight. And by the way, ladies, there he is, Mr. Behold. I just brought up your name not too long ago. How you doing, Mr. Michael J? Working hard? You doing good, sir? Kind of missed you around there, man. You've been busy? I hope you're good, sir. Good to see you. Yeah, I'm going to probably shut it down about 1. I don't rush off, but we'll see how things go. My first shamanic journey showed me the fox. My conversation with the druid under the dolmen introduced me to the raven. Another journey introduced the bear and the protector of my inner child. That's cool, Vixen. The dragon, yeah, you said the dragon showed up. Oh, excuse me. A mermaid. Interesting. I hope you are well, good sir. Like I said, I just brought you up a little bit ago. I wonder if I should say Edna. I haven't seen her. Well, we didn't have Oracles Friday. Last time I saw Edna was Friday? Or was it Saturday? No, last Saturday. But I kind of fumbled the ball Wednesday. Like I said, it was funny. If you would have seen my face when I realized that I forgot to stream. First I was relieved that I never posted it. Then I would have been embarrassed. But I was like, oh my gosh, she could have killed me. I forgot to stream. We laughed. I know you messed your leg up. You still having issues with it then, I take it? Yeah, I knew you had problems with your leg. That's right. We're here for you, Mike. No, I hope it gets better, dude. Yes, that's what I thought. Well, ever need anybody yell at, you know how to get a hold of me. Just leave a comment. No, I believe me, I have a thing set on my computer, so anytime somebody leaves a comment, I'll know. So, you ever need me, yell. I haven't, it's pretty sad because I basically get on Facebook posts and I'll get on there and look at dragon pictures and stuff, fiddle around, but I haven't really been on Facebook or TikTok a whole lot lately because I've just been so dang busy. And more of that bacon being passed around. Yeah, Mike needs all the bacon he can get right now. That will make him healthy. But Mike, I do have a hammer and duct tape. So if you need some assistance, just let me know. We'll get that baby fixed right up. I may even have some steel piping around here. We'll straighten that sucker right up. And I know it. I know. And I know what it feels like to have a messed up leg. Oh, God. It was bad enough the hip surgery wasn't half as bad as when I broke my toes and my foot. That was awful. But I think the worst break I ever had was when I broke 2 ribs. That sucked. Big time, to be right out honest. I think that was probably and I deal with pain pretty good. I have a pretty good threshold for pain. But that was awful. I mean, every time you breathed, it was like somebody stabbing you. Poking you, I should say. I have to watch what I say. I don't want to get monetized. But it was not a pleasant feeling. I got broken on my fingers. That didn't hurt half as bad as that. Broke my nose. Got that neck surgery. 2 hip replacements. But that was my fault. But I've always been fascinated with spirits, animals. I didn't know you could have more than one. Because usually everybody's, mine's this and mine's that. So far, the only ones I've been told is an owl. Which really shocked me. It was like, an owl? That was the last thing I expected. I figured it'd be something more dorky. A goat or something, I've been told by a Reiki master that the Fae are around me. Seen signs, but nothing physical. I think Gemma, often, especially Little Man, I think they're visited by the Fae quite a bit. I think everyone has a main spirit guide. Has a main spirit guide. I think they do. I got it. Hey, you got to read the typos. Everybody does it to me most of the time. So don't worry about it. Like you should see me when I get typing and throwing oracles, trying to keep up with everybody. You're all good. Well, everybody has a spirit guide too. And sometimes that spirit guide is an animal or a relative. A lot of times it's either a relative or a distant relative that's had some kind of or a person that's had contact throughout your family history. Yeah, autocorrect cracks me up, especially on the phone. Not too bad here. Usually mistakes when I do on the computer are my fault because I'm trying to type too fast or something. Nothing wrong with your trigger finger. And nothing wrong with mine either. Maybe a little crooked, but it works. I'm more of a sword guy. You'd see what I had beside my bed in case somebody broke in. They're not going to know I'm on them before they pull out any weapon because it's already going to be chopped off. I think my autocorrect is set to aggressive. That's funny. Or pain in the butt. Sorry, guys, I'm getting a little twitchy, so if I seem shaky on you, that's why. I had some issues before we streamed. I didn't think I was going to be able to talk too well, but it came, the voice, the talking came back just a little bit before we started. So I'm glad. I didn't want to be on here stuttering and stuff. Ugh. Darn tight, Ghosty. Bet. I'm glad you're well, Mike. You know, I've been thinking about you. When I don't see, like I said, when you don't see the regulars, I worry. I give everybody about 2 weeks. Then I start maybe looking around, seeing if I see them anywhere else, to see if they're okay. I know Edna's been hurting a lot lately because of the weather. And she's like Pops. When that weather rolls in, that pressure change, she's like Pops. She feels it. Darn right. Darn tight. That's why I was laughing. I knew what you meant. I like that set to aggressive. I know some people like that are set to aggressive. No, we don't. And I'm going to talk to Gemma about that. See, it's her channel. I'm just like a little host, co-host, minion of hers. I'm her pet dragon, more or less. Yeah, autocorrect can be a beast. It sure can. But I was going to talk to her about that. It'd be kind of cool to have a Discord. Heck, she's just trying to keep up with YouTube and TikTok, and I think she's on Instagram now. And we want to get back to getting Rumble going again. So, because I told her it probably wouldn't hurt to stream on Rumble too. Do like an afternoon stream or like an afternoon Oracle stream on Rumble or something. That is legitimate setting for word. That's for sure. I like that. That's for sure. You took nasty fault. I thought you had, I figured you might, when you said you hurt your leg the first time, I thought maybe you had a motorcycle accident. Is that what happened, or did you actually fall? It's great for bringing your chat community and share things together on there. Yes. Yeah, it is. I totally agree. I was in Chasing the Truth for a while, but I had to leave. I was in James, who does the Impossible channels. I'm still in his, but I don't go in his as much as I used to. I'm in quarterings. But it's just about time going in. I go in every, like once a week, I go in and check out things. But it wouldn't be a bad idea. And I'm going to have to maybe talk to her about that. She's the boss. I'm just, like I said, I'm just a little pet dragon she keeps in the basement. No, you actually fell? That's okay. I thought maybe, I said maybe I just misunderstood. I'm sorry, Mike. So did you break it? Is that what happened? Did it break? And how many places did it break, if it's the case? Do you have to have bolts? I call them the bolts. I pissed off a nurse. I do that all the time, Mike. That ain't nothing new. That's good to piss them off once in a while. I've pissed off my share, believe me, dude. When I'm in the hospital, and as many times as I've been in the hospital, you damn straight I'm going to speak my mind. Money they take from me, you better darn straight. I ain't afraid to upset a doctor or nurse. It's my body they're messing with. I know it better than they do. have one, and we do and chit chat on in there. Yeah, actually, that's really a good thing because I had thought about it a couple of months back, but she's going through a lot right now. She just got done dealing with a very sick kid, and then she's a book writer, so tying her down sometimes and discussing moves and things can be kind of hard. So, but I will bring that up because that's actually probably a pretty good idea. Even if it's not a big Discord channel, it'd be fun that people go hang out on, which is probably not a bad idea. But see, that's one of the reasons why she likes to do for oracles. And we hopefully going back to Tuesday, Paranormal Tuesday talks. Because I'm kind of like that space for her that I fill in every so often. Because she was doing a lot. And then, things got crazy at home. And she doesn't have time. She gets one upload a week, and then her oracles, and then the rest of the week she's either taking care of the kid or trying to write a new book. I asked her if she would like to put pudding in a small pool, and I can actually see you saying that. I had no apologies. That's funny. See, the thing is with me, when I come out of surgery, I'm what you would call a happy stoner. So when I come out of the surgeries and stuff, I'm a little lovey. I've gotten smacked a couple times. Wake up! You're not touching your wife. I remember. Well, I don't remember it. I remember bits and parts of it. I come out of surgery once, and when I kind of came to my ex leaned over and goes, "Man, you gave that nurse a hard time." Like, what do you mean? She goes, "You would not keep your hands off of her. Kept telling her how much you loved her." She kept saying, "He's a feisty one, isn't he?" Is the nurse the one that caused you the fall, Mike? Probably. After a comment like that, she probably made it worse. Just for that, Mike, here, we're going to show you this hammer, this new medical tool that we have. It's called a hammer. I wish I could say I feel bad, but I didn't. No, don't worry about it, Mike. You know those nurses hear anything and everything. So you probably was nothing compared to what some of these nurses probably heard come out of people's mouths. Oh, one nurse made me mad one time. Oh, and she knew it. Next thing I know, I had the bigwig coming in, hand me his card. "You have any more problems, Mr. Davis?" I said, "Yeah, you bet I will be calling." I only took her like 15 tries to put an IV in. I had so many holes in me, I was pissed. It didn't hurt. It was just annoying of it. She was mad. I bet she was. That's silly. And Vixen, I probably would have asked the same question. Was she the reason for the fall? Did you fall at work, Mike? Is that what you did? And did you say how many times you hurt your leg? How many breaks you had? Was it broken, or did you just pull a muscle, rip it open? Did you get an infection? If you don't want to answer those questions, just say you don't want to answer. That's fine. Ooh, Al, you have a pretty cool channel. I'm just checking out your channel. Mind if I subscribe? There you go, folks. Here's Al's channel. Al 13. That looks like a cool channel. I'll have to go check this out. There you go, Al. I will check make sure I got it right. Hold on. I'll post it here. Make sure it goes through. And then I will make sure that I got the right channel there for you. Yep, that's it. There's Al's channel, folks. Check it out. It looks pretty good. Yeah, so I'll have to check that out. I'll be darned. You have one of my replays in there, don't you? Well, bless your heart. Cool. I'll have to check it out. I love going back and checking out people's. I love. How long have you been on here? Since 2017? Cool breeze. I'll have to go check your channel out. Thank you. I think you're into Dogman. There's an AI Dogman compilations. Yeah, I saw that. A lot of people are into the Dogman. What are your opinions on the Dogman? Everybody's got a good opinion of the Dogman. I'm not. I kind of think Dogman is a genetic thing. And if it's not a genetic thing that they have created, it's been around for a while, which I believe is also the case. But I also believe in werewolves. I've seen a werewolf. And I know it was a werewolf. You can't tell me it was a dog man. Poor me and Ryan argue about this all the time. It wasn't a dog man. This was a werewolf. There was a very human side to this female. And it was a female. Because it had breasts. Guy got a picture of it and wouldn't show us. Because he freaked out so bad he thought he was cursed. He may have been, because I haven't talked to him since. Well, I had to walk away from him because he pissed me off. Because he wouldn't give me the picture so I could publish it. And that's a story in itself. Yeah, check out their channel. Pretty good. Yeah, folks, you got a channel, you come in here and check me out or check Gemma out, let us know. If we don't make your wrench, we don't usually make people wrenches until they've been around a while. But she tries to make everybody that's been around a while a wrench. We need to give Vixen Doe. I had meant to remind her the other day to give you a wrench. Because we had you a wrench when you were Fox. And since you switched names, I don't think she ever gave you another wrench. Oh, you're welcome. This is what I mean about the paranormal community. You guys got to stick together. Quit arguing with each other. Because everybody has a good opinion. It doesn't, and research and thoughts. Let's put them all together. And we might all come up with an answer together. I'm a moderator for another channel, Paranormal Portal. Oh, I know that channel. I don't think I'm subscribed to it, but I do know the channel. I'll have to go back and sub to that too. I wonder if some dogman-like entities have any connection to Eric. You know, that's actually a good question. No, don't forgive me. I don't say the name because I always screw, my voice and vocal techniques suck out because of the Tourette's. Anubis. But that is actually a very good question. And it may not, it may not, and it may, see what I mean? It may very be part of that or some of it. Hello, everyone, by the way. Now he finally says hello. They're good people over there. They would be cool for you and Gemma to talk to, and vice versa. I'll have to check them out. Yeah, Gemma loves. She's got a new book out, so folks, make sure you check out that new book. I'm waiting for mine. And I'll probably send it to her. She always writes something in it for me. But yeah, I'll have to remember that. Now, she does the interviews. I don't. She never gives me time to talk. When we're together, she does all the talking, which is fine with me. I'm just kind of the dragon that sits in the back and kind of make sure that things go good. Like I said, I'm the guardian of the gem. Like we say, I'm the guardian of the gemstones and the keeper of the list on Friday nights. That's what the back of my shirt, I think, says too. We both, me and Jem both, have some pretty wild encounters. She's had a couple, one with her son. You know, she had a glimmer man, what she calls the glimmer man encounter with her son. And I think if she wouldn't have acted as fast as her son, she did with her son, she might have had a missing person case on her hand. And that story. And I've been where that happened, and it's interesting. Because those woods are very interesting, beautiful. But have you been to a place and you know it's old? I mean, all forests are old, but sometimes you walk into a forest or a place and you feel that it's old. There's something old and ancient about this place. Something, I wouldn't say not right, but mystical or just off a little bit. Yeah, it's actually one of her. She actually does a upload on it in her backlog. My encounters, usually a lot of them have to. Now, when I was younger, I've seen stuff. I've seen some wild stuff. I've dealt with a demon. I've seen the Hat Man twice. Once when I was young, and it messed me up for a couple of days. I've had a spirit walk through me. This white, gray, peppered hair, I've had this since I was 12 years old. And it used to be all white. See, what else? And then most of the stuff I've seen growing up was the things that follow other people's attachments. Now, that is probably the bulk of my encounters. Then from about 77 to about 83, me and a bunch of guys used to drive around the state, hang out at truck stops and ask questions and talk to truckers. And we did our own little paranormal investigation. We used to use a TV as a voice box, like you see in. It's funny because we did that before White Noise was even a movie, where we'd hook a TV up to a VCR in the 80s. And then movie came out and I was like, they stole our idea. But, you know, it was common practice. Yeah, Al, I find that majority of the people that are in these chat rooms either had an experience or having an experience or still experiencing stuff since a young age. And then you get the few that come in that have had an experience and still trying to understand it. So that would not surprise me. My ex and I had a crawler experience back in, 2006, 2007. She should have wrote the date down. Don't worry about it because that will always still be. I've seen crawlers before. Now, a pair crawler. See, me and this another thing me and Ryan argue about. Even though I know rake is a kind of the creepy pasta name for it, there is a difference between this thing that I've seen more than I have of the pair. I've seen pair crawlers. To be pair crawlers is kind of like what Ryan would tell you is kind of like a Wendigo or Skinwalker, you know, that get kind of, I don't know, but these things are a lot different than the pair crawlers. And they look like them, but there's some distinct differences. And one with these things that I see that are not barrel crawlers is you can just feel the evil in them. I mean, you could, as soon as they come close or get even near you or inside it, you can see them. You can feel this. These things are not good. Get away, go away, run. Our house is over 100 years old. A lot of strange stuff happens. Yeah, when you get an old home like that, Mike, that's usually the case. You know, places we live in, places we visit, they hold that energy. A weird bright white light was seen beforehand. It was 2 pulses of white light, nothing like any light I've seen. We also got really sick the day later. Ooh, interesting. I didn't have that problem. I wonder if you were seeing portal or something happen there. Interesting. And getting sick afterward. Now, that doesn't surprise me because a lot of people, after they have encounters, usually do get sick. I don't know why, but you'll find that they don't usually associate being sick with the encounter. I had my one and only night terror while living in the RV. Yeah, and when you're by yourself, it's kind of scary. There was an entity outside, looked like a withered old man. It couldn't get in, but I couldn't move. Interesting. Yeah, I had friends that did the van life for a while. About 3 years ago, just before I started doing Gemma's show, they stopped because she said they seen some weird stuff and it was starting to scare them because it was like everywhere they went. And they had actually stopped staying at parks and campgrounds and just started staying at hotel lots. Then it started to happen at the hotel lots. So they just sold it and quit. She said that she will never camp again. She'll never sleep in her car again. Her husband, who's John Rocky, I mean, he's like a manly man. You start talking about that stuff with him, and you can see the nervousness, and you can hear it in his voice. Whatever they saw, those times scared the crap out of them. I burned a lot of sage. This thing was in our back alley. Ooh. I wonder if you witnessed a portal opening, closing, or something. That's wild. 2 pulses light. Was there any noise? Any like crackling noise? Do you remember any like static? Like hearing static or crackling or popping while that was happening? No noise at all. Interesting. So was it dead silence? You couldn't like hear no noise, no traffic, no sound, no birds, no nothing. It was dead silence. I'm asking these questions for a reason. Edna would tell you that's me getting nosy and trying to figure it out for you. I stepped away from the white sage. First Nations are declaring it a closed ceremony. I am going to burn dragon's blood. There you go. So when you say no noise at all, that was total silence, right? You didn't have any noise. All you saw was the flash. And it was like, but the air was the air still? Do you remember all that? It was silent. The light was shining through our bedroom back window. We were laying in bed and the sun had just set. Ooh, interesting. You know, if you write that encounter down, Gemma would do it for listener encounters, just like probably Brent would do. She loves that stuff. Now, I'd love to hear the whole story behind that too, to be quite honest. I piece things. I'm really good at puzzles and stuff. So, it always fascinates me what people can remember, how I can look into that and place it and all that. Our window was open, didn't hear F at all. This happened in Strathmore, Alberta, right in town of all places. Oh wow, Alberta, huh? I'll send it in. Yeah, please, and I'll tell her to watch out for it. Yeah, I want to hear that story. That's interesting. The last crawler I saw, and see, so I used the name rake to distinguish the pair crawlers from these things that I see. Because when I saw the creepypasta for rake, I was like, this sounds just like the things that I've seen, but they're not pair crawlers. These things are not pair crawlers. So I just kept that name to describe them because it was the only way I could think of it. Because they're white, they're dangly, they're thinner than the pair crawlers. They're almost like stick figures with long nails and sharp teeth and black as, I mean, it's not just the eyes. That whole eye area is black. They move really fast. I actually watched one scale a house that just disappeared. But we both heard static right after it disappeared. And it sounded like static. They have a unique body movement. No human. Yeah. That's the same thing with pair crawlers. But I've always noticed you see pair crawlers in like damp areas, forests, around water, caves, drainage, sewer systems. A lot of these things that people see in the sewers, I think those are pair crawlers. These rake things, I don't know where they come from. I've seen them come out of roofs. I saw one actually come out of the ground. Now, granted, there was something laying on the ground and it came out between it. First, it was like a shadow. And as it came out, it was not cool. It didn't scare me because it takes a lot to scare me. But it was just they're so, I don't want to say ugly. They're just nerving to see. And the one time that we had one see us, it chased us. I mean, we were in a car. It was chasing us. And it almost caught up with us. A person would have to break bones to walk like that. Yeah, for sure. I've had the static as well and other experiences. Sounds like ruffling a plastic bag. Kind of, yeah. The static we heard that night, it sounded like a radio signal. Like Gemma was talking in her one upload we did. It sounded like radio static. But it was really weird kind of a static. But that's what it sounded like. I've heard static before and other times too, in other experiences. I've also heard popping noises, crackling, like a fire crackling. Like you hear wood crackling in a fire. No fire. But we definitely heard that. And then we saw this weird shadow come out from behind these trees and just disappear in darkness. And it was huge. We couldn't see the form, but it was a massive shadow. We both just stood there and looked at each other like, what the heck? He goes, this is why, the guy that I'm with goes, this is why I don't hang out with you, Davis, because every time we go out or do stuff like this is what happens. He always blames me, but it might be me. But yeah, I always ask questions like that because I think it also helps a person, make them kind of stir those memories up and help them get answers. Also, good. I like asking questions like that. I was at a spirit mound and encountered ciphers there. They were making the static noise. The one book took the shape of an old indigenous woman. Oh, wow. Questions are fine. Questions are important. You can't learn anything if you don't ask questions. Even when you're reading a book, you find yourself asking yourself questions. So questions are always good. Yeah, I'm an Indian Mound guy. I live in Ohio. I live in central Ohio. So I'm not far from the Adena Mounds. In fact, my dad grew up in Chillicothe, which is just right outside. Not far from Serpent Mounds and a bunch of other mounds. In fact, where I'm living here, I can go 20 minutes to a park. They have one mound that they have out that you could see. But I know for a fact that there are 2 more mounds in that park and possibly 3 that they may not even know about. They probably know about them. They probably know about at least 1 or 2 of them. But I'm pretty sure there's a 3rd one too, which is fine because I don't want to mess with them. And you have to forgive me out. I have Tourette's, and it's sometimes certain words, sometimes it's hard for me to talk. So you just have to kind of bear with me. They all know. I don't know how much you watch the stream, so they are elementals. Yeah. I'm surprised Vixen didn't come in and say something because she would have probably said the same thing. I can't find this mound anywhere on Google Maps. Really? Next time you go to, if you ever can go back to that mound, get the coordinates. Take your phone and get coordinates. Then pull the coordinates up on Google Earth and see if they've messed around with it. I might as well, yeah. I have they didn't know what my issues were when I was a kid. I rocked in my sleep so bad that when I was a baby, I literally broke cribs, tipped them over. Well, they kept telling my parents, oh, he'll grow out of it. He'll grow out of it. And I didn't grow out of it. And then when I was in my 20s, they thought it was Parkinson's. And when I told them, my mom looked at him and laughed and goes, I've never met a person that had a Parkinson's disease since they were 2 years old. And the lady like, you've been dealing with this since you were 2 years old? She goes, yeah. So I have a doctor friend up in Cleveland Clinic. He hooked me up with a couple of neurologists. And that's the conclusion they came to, was it's Tourette's. It's a movement form of Tourette's. But as you all know, movement disorders affect the whole body. I have tremors. Sometimes I have little seizures. Not as bad as I used to. They pretty much got that under control. I refuse to do the medication. There's only one medication I'll do because the medication makes me worse. But the Tourette's definitely affects my speaking ability now. Because it's obvious. There are some days I stutter. The main woods have to be filled with burial mounds. The main, but there isn't anything to mark them. No, you mean on my Google Map, Vixen? There are mounds from, I would say from probably Wisconsin down to maybe Kentucky, and then everything northeast, you're going to find mounds. There's a lot of them in Jersey too. Now the mounds that we found, and I know there's mounds on a couple properties too north of here that, thank God, the people that own the property have not allowed anybody to touch them. But they've got growth on them and stuff. But it's very obvious. Even a lady that I was talking to goes, yeah, we know they're mounds. They've got to be. And she goes, that's why my husband bought this property. He didn't want nobody to to mess with them or discover them. Look, where I remember it was with the whereabouts, but it's on private property. Oh, mine is movements. I'm always trying to crack my joints. It's hard to explain. Not really. I get it. I went from little tremors. See, I rock. That's why you always see me moving. Because if I start sitting still too long, I immediately, this is immediate. I've broken chairs. And if I don't pay attention, the doc goes, oh, you control it? No, I can't control it because as soon as you see me stop rocking, I'm all over the place. I'm moving. They tried to tell me, oh, he's hyperactive, and tried to put me on Ritalin as a kid, and like maybe twice as bad. My mom and dad were like, no, that's not what it is. This kid's got some. And a lot of people don't realize that Tourette's is not a hereditary thing. It's a birth defect. And sometimes they think it's caused by maternity drugs back in the 50s and the 60s. I don't know. Tourette's is still one of those things you're still learning a lot about. But yeah, that, like you're cracking your hands and stuff, that's more like a tick, and that is part of the ticks are very much a part of Tourette's. I love how my stream itself is really good. It's like it lags on YouTube. But when it comes to the chat, it always amazes me how I get the chat on YouTube before I get the chat on StreamYard. In my area, there was at least 3 First Nation tribes. So their sacred places can't be far. But nothing is marked. And they probably do that for a reason so nobody messes with those areas. I don't know, but you would think there'd be some kind of historical marker or something. I had a bad reaction to a prescription that intensifies those moments. I feel like, I've had that happen. Looking back before, stretching out, trying to crack it. Yeah, I've had that happen. There's a lot of reasons why I won't take the Tourette's medicine. Heck, when they thought I had Parkinson's, they were trying to give me Parkinson's medicine. Some of the Tourette's medicine is the same as Parkinson's medicine. And I told them, it's like, dude, that just makes me worse. That just makes my rocking more violent. They've tried everything. And a lot of it is just, I don't know what it is. For me and medication, I've got 4 medications that I take. Actually 5. The one's in here. That was because I got sick. The 4 medications I'm on one is for diabetes. And they're telling me I could probably stop taking it soon because my sugar has been great. And the other ones is for one is for the Nexium, which is for I have Barrett's esophagus, which is acid reflux. It tears up your esophagus. I had to go through a lot of surgeries for that. And then the other 2 medicines are just to kind of keep the tremors and the rocking to a point that's very light dose. Because every time I take a higher dose, I get worse or I get sick or it messes with me. But every time they try to give me a new medicine, one medicine really literally killed me. They gave me an experimental drug to see if it would help because it was getting really bad. The tremors and rocking was getting really bad. So they gave me an experimental drug. I agreed to take it. My son found me in this chair, blue as a ghost. And when the paramedics got here, they said I was dead. And they were trying to zap me all the way back to the hospital. Finally, I came to at the hospital in the room after, but they said after like the 5th try of hitting me. And they said that they even weren't going to hit me that time. They were just going to write me off. So I'm now even more cautious about taking medication. I should try Dowsing rod. Yeah, that actually would not be a bad idea. You never know, because it might work. Unmarked mounds have some more powerful than they're. Yeah, see, when back in the 19 and 1800s and early 1900s, when we were really tearing up this land and digging, and these farmers were finding giants. They were finding these giants in mounds, and they were not marked. I mean, and I believe like the Adena mounds and the Hopewell mounds south of me, the two main big mounds, I know for a fact because they closed the park down for like a year. And I know for a fact because I know a ranger that works for, is a ranger for Ohio. He gets me into these parks after dark so we can go check out the mountains and see what kind of vibes we pick out when it gets dark outside. Because a lot of times you're not allowed in those areas after dark. He's pretty sure they made him go on vacation. And he's pretty sure that they opened two of those mounds, then put them back. Took what they wanted out of them, then put them back. If you go look at them, if I could find the pictures I took when I was a kid, when we used to go there when we were kids, and the pictures I took now, there is a difference, a size difference. Excuse me. I would be very, very respectful out 13. I wouldn't advise anything I found. Yeah, I like I said, we have found mounts here, and I've told nobody where they're at, where we believe they're at, because I didn't want people messing with them, and they've never been messed with. I know of right now at least 13 mounts in my area that have not been touched. And I don't even think they know they're there because they're in areas that are, hard to, build on. And believe me, here in Central Ohio, they're building everywhere now. Sorry about that. Okay. Sorry about that. I just want to get these to stop ringing. So annoying. Just them just my phone telling me that it's about time to take a dose. Because one I take about every 3 hours. Just to keep the tremors down to a chill. Doesn't always work though, because like I said, it's so light. I really don't like take it. Sometimes I just skip it. It really don't do much. Excuse me again. One I was at was a pretty big mound with the medicine wheel on top. Really? Have you seen Serpent Mound? That's a cool mound. There was in front of the Serpent Mound, there used to be a pavilion. What do you call those things? Long. And they still don't know what it was for. It's still there. It's been knocked over. They believe somebody knocked it over on purpose because it's awful. Because it sits on a ledge. When you walk past Serpent Mound, there's a ledge, there's a drop off, and it's laying down there. It's all covered in weeds and stuff. You have to kind of undig it out. And if you start messing with it, a park ranger comes and yells at you. Yeah, I haven't looked at the clouds since. I'll tell you what, you don't look at clouds the same. I have other reasons why, but I'm a sky watcher. And it's not just because of UFOs. In fact, it's probably less because of UFOs, because of what's going on in our skies, period. And there's a lot more going on. I have my telescope. Not just UFOs out there, folks. There's other crazy things going on. And I think a lot of people are going to find out some of these UFOs are organic and possibly actually living things. Our First Nations are pretty much ignored here. Findings are usually ignored. Our one gravesite was discovered, but the town hushed it up, and a paper mill was built over the. Oh, geez, yeah, the mill is gone. Yeah, they want the property, and you'll find that's been big. That was a big thing about the 18th, the 17th, and the 1800s here, was they didn't care because they wanted the property. They were plowing over anything and everything. The game kids play where you name the shape of the cloud took a whole new meaning for me that day. Oh, I bet it did. Oh my God. What time we got here, folks? Oh, 1:30. It's after 1:30. I went a lot longer than I thought. I'm going to have to end it, folks, because I got to get up in the morning and get busy. What a great night. What a great conversation. Come back Wednesday, because I will be here this Wednesday. I'm not going to miss like I did last Wednesday. Was just a busy day. I felt bad, actually, for missing it. But I'll be here probably 10 o'clock Wednesday night for spooky time. Thanks for a wonderful night. I hope everybody enjoyed the upload, and I'll play the next one. I'll play one more Hide Strangeness next Saturday, and maybe something else, depending on how conversations go. And then after that, I'm going to mix it up a little bit before I go back into the High Strangeness. Everybody have a wonderful night, rest of a night or morning, and have a wonderful Mother's Day. Those ladies out there, all you ladies out there, please enjoy your day, and I hope you can enjoy your day. Have a wonderful Sunday. Have a wonderful beginning of the week. Remember, Gemma's got an upload. Nightmare. Good night, sir. Have a wonderful Mother's Day. Gemma's got an upload at 11 a.m. Monday morning about the Changeling, which is based on a true story. I'm interested in seeing what her take is at, because she doesn't think it's not what they say it is, which is highly possible. Anyways, check that out. I'll probably be in that chat, of course. You guys have a wonderful one. Have a wonderful week. If I don't see you Monday, hopefully I'll see you Wednesday night at 10 for spooky time, where we could really just talk. Please rest well. Have a good one. Nightmare, thanks for stopping by. Much love to you. Have a good week. Much love to all of you. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. Thanks for a great end. See what I mean? I'm starting to get tongue-tied. That's another reason why it's probably time for me to get off. Have a wonderful day. Much love to you all. Peace out, and I'll see you on the flip side, folks. Have a good one. I didn't hit end.